Yo, what's up now, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Buc What You Heard. My name is Gene. You can reach me at Buc What You Heard. You have to excuse the mess in the background. I am remodeling everything, try to get things up and running to where it looks good as we get ready for the regular season. I do apologize again. I know that the last time I was on, I did the same thing. I do apologize for not having gotten on sooner. But I did want to get in here and kind of catch up with everybody with everything that's going on right now with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I mean, there's just been so many different moves from the offseason till now. Excuse me. From the offseason till now that it's kind of cool to get in here and catch up. I will be back on regular coming up Wednesday with Michael Pless. We will be joined by Thomas Bassinger, one of my favorites, friend of the show. I've got some other guests lined up and some other things that I'm really working on to just get you the best content that I could get you. But tonight, I really, it was the weekend. There's not a lot going on. There's no football going on. A lot of dead space coming up. So I thought this would be a good opportunity to catch up with everybody. And the one thing that I did want to address is that I haven't been caught up in a lot of the debates, the hot takes or the debates that have been going on with a lot of the moves that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have made this season. I've been content to just kind of sit back, watch everything unfold, and just see how this team does this year, considering the old regime has been moved out. And you guys definitely want to tune in next this Wednesday coming up, Wednesday at 10 p.m. Eastern, where I will be joined by special guest Thomas Bassinger, who will get into the metrics. We'll talk a little bit about the previous regime, which now that the previous regime is gone, it's easy to go back and look at their body of work, look at the injuries, look at some of the things that happened, and determine, what was the deal. Now, another thing that I will be discussing tonight, and I'll probably get into that here within the next few minutes, is personnel. And I know that personnel has been a struggle for a lot of listeners. I mean, a lot of listeners, because you have people that are trying to figure out, how are the Bucs going to fill these holes? How are the Bucs going to replace this guy? What are the Bucs going to do with this position? And I've heard a lot of that. I've heard a lot of speculation. I'm not an insider, but it's been really cool to get to listen to people like Greg Auman, people like Jenna Lane, people like Thomas Bassinger, people like, just going on Al Keck. I've gotten to listen to Al Keck, who's been on with Bucs Report. And by the way, for you guys that are new listeners, shout out to Bucs Report. Thank you for, just giving me the opportunity to have my podcast listed on Bucs Report. And, they've always been a friend of the show. And, you've got guys like Keith Larson and Tony Rossi on there who do a great job with what they do. Another shout out to some of the other guys out there, Corey from All Things Bucs, and what they're doing. They're doing a great job as well, just getting content out there and getting that into the vision of people that are following the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because again, there's so many unknown factors right now with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. When you look at them, new head coach. Got a totally new coaching staff, a person who's been with this team for almost a decade is now moved on to another team. You got a guy that was drafted ahead of him that has come back in and taken his place. So interesting, a lot of interesting scenarios that are out there. A lot of people that have been very critical of the general manager. And yeah, I totally get that. With everything that's been going on. So again, a lot of things going on right now with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And it's just one of those things that you really, I'm really interested to see how all this stuff unfolds. So It'll definitely be great to check this out. We have a new setup. There's a new setup with YouTube, and I'm just trying to get used to it. And okay, I'm gonna pop the chat out here and make sure that you've got 3 people out here watching right now. I'm gonna get the chat out here and make sure that I'm not missing anybody. If you have commented in the chat and I missed you, I do apologize. Please get back in the chat and give me your thoughts on everything that's going on right now, because I definitely love to know what get your thoughts on everything. But let's kind of dive right into this. And where I'm going to start with is my expectations for the team. This team has been being built since 2015, and realistically since 2015. And what we've seen from this team has been one winning season since then, and a lot of underwhelming seasons, a lot of injuries, a lot of things have happened that you try to use as an explanation as to why this team hasn't progressed. But something needs to happen. Something needs to get done. The fans are long overdue, very long suffering fans. And, it puts me in the mindset of the Cleveland Browns and how their fans have been very long suffering, having to deal with mismanagement or just overall poor management from, the higher ups, and poor coaching at times, poor draft picks that have been made, just a lot of different things that have been happening, as things have been going on throughout their time. But you go back and you look at this team here, and I don't know, it just has been a number of different things that have occurred with this team, from coaching to free agency to missed draft picks, just you name it, it's pretty much happened to this team. So this is one of those things that it'll be interesting to see this offseason how this team progressed. Reading some of Greg Auman's quotes, it looks like you have a lot of people that are buying into this team, and that's exciting, into the new coaching regime, I should say. Just players picking up the plays and being able to make plays, and some of the draft picks have been making plays in the offseason. But again, you can't read a lot into that because here he is, Joe Patterson. What's happening, Joe Patterson, talking about his Raiders? Yeah, man, we'll see what they do. Again, you're talking about a guy that I personally don't think is a good coach or a good talent evaluator in John Gruden, but we could have that debate for another time. We're here to talk about the real Buccaneers, the real Pirates of the NFL, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So just letting you know that. But kind of getting back to my expectations for this team. I expect them the 2-5 win seasons in a row. Very frustrating for me. I have expectations that this team, as they have been being built since 2015, will have to show a return on all the time and effort and energy that's been invested in this team. They have to do more than this 5-win team. 500 to me would not be acceptable. I think this team has to do more. They have identified who they want as their franchise quarterback in Jameis Winston. And they've gone out and they've made some moves on the defensive line, as the defense has been a liability in not being able to sustain leads in the fourth quarter. So those are some things that it looks like they've tried to address. And again, I'm comfortable just kind of sitting back and waiting to see what this team does with the players they have and, the players that they've brought in. And, that's one of those things where we're going to see what they do with this. And, just talking about some of the players that have been let go. I know I would probably say this is the biggest topic of the offseason is Gerald McCoy being released and signing with the Carolina Panthers. And I've heard every scenario that you can think of from Gerald McCoy as being petty to Gerald McCoy wants to stick it to the Bucs. There were three teams in the running. You had the Cleveland Browns, you had the Baltimore Ravens, and you had the Carolina Panthers. And at one time, I had heard rumors about the Saints, but I'm not going to go into that because I'm not going to be rude about, how I feel about that. But, when you look at all these teams and you look at what these teams had to offer Joe McCoy, I think Joe McCoy, and I'm just being honest here, just as a pure football move, I feel like Joe McCoy did what was best for him going to the Carolina Panthers. When you look at the defense that Carolina has with KK Short, and you have there are just players like Luke Kuechly and Shaq Thompson, and just different players that they have, but that defensive line is pretty stacked. And Gerald McCoy is going to a place where, all the emphasis is not going to be on him, so he can go on in and make plays. And 500 is acceptable to the Raiders. New coach for the Bucs, new system, tough division. No, not really. When you consider all the talent that they brought in, when you consider all the people that they've moved around and people that they've let go, and just where they are with salary cap, a lot of the moves that they've made, they have to do something. There has to be a return on all these different moves that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have made since 2015, because you've got the same general manager in place. And a lot of people have been hypercritical of the general manager because, they haven't done anything. They've had 2 5-win seasons after a 9-win season. And again, that's just, is one of those things that in my eyes is just not acceptable. 500 it just isn't. I mean, just looking at the grand scheme of things, I will be very disappointed if the Bucs ended up at 500. They're going to have to do better than that. It just has to be. But just kind of getting back to it, and you have Joe McCoy signing with the Carolina Panthers, and then you have Ndamukong Suh coming in, a player that, in my opinion, just watching the two guys play, has a different mindset than Joe McCoy does. And watching him play, I know their statistics are pretty close, and how they play it differs how they play, their style of play. And I just think that, bringing in an Ndamukong Suh would be a lot better. The Pewtercast, what's up? Cleveland and Baltimore leave you with ice on your balls in the winter. Carolina, not so much. No, actually, Carolina is kind of moving to a 3-4 defense. And when you look at the players that they have on that team, I think Joe McCoy kind of fits in with that. If they do a rotation, I think Joe McCoy kind of fits in. As long as they can as everybody on that defense can stay healthy, that looks to be, in all honesty, a better fit for him to be in Carolina as opposed to the other two teams. So, again, I'm not trying to read more into it, than what it is. That's what he says. It is what it is. Eric Hardnett, what's going on, my friend? But just kind of getting back to what I was talking about. You've got exactly right there. You go. But to Pewtercast, what's going on? And I don't know how you feel about this, but based on what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan base, people that go to games, people that drive from Jacksonville to Tampa to attend a game, there has to be more. And I'm sorry, 2 5-win seasons really is not acceptable. And to me, that's why I look at a 500 season is not acceptable as well. It's the Winston factor. Brother is good when he's on. He's not when he can throw the game away. You know what? I like the coach. I like Bruce Arians. I like what I saw from him when he was at Arizona. I really believe, and I've said this before, Bruce Arians would not have come out of retirement if he didn't think he could do something with this Buccaneers team. And I would argue that with a lot of people because this guy was retired, and I think he saw something with this team. He's comfortable with Jameis Winston. He happens to like Jameis Winston, and he feels like he can help him. And we've seen what Bruce Arians has done with lesser quarterbacks to put them in positions to win. So I'm good with Bruce Arians. Let's see what he can do, and I'm content, like I said, to watch this all unfold. But again, my expectations are that the Bucs have to do, they have to at least be competing for the playoffs in December. That's the only thing that I could see that would be acceptable to me, is they are in the hunt and they're not mathematically eliminated 5 games before the season's over. They have to be in there. They have to be competitive. I'm expecting the Buccaneers to win games in the middle of the season, and that's something that we have not seen from Tampa for quite some time. We've seen them come out hot first couple of games, and then it kind of cools off, and you have a couple of losing streaks, and then they kind of pick it up on the back end of the season. This has to be something where the Bucs are in these games, and the Bucs are putting themselves in a position to win. And, I have high expectations for the defense, especially. The defense has to do more than what they've been doing. The defense can't be a liability. I understand that there have been times where the offense has put the defense in an odd position, and they've had to fight to get back into games, and that leads to turnovers at times. But at the end of the day, I think that you have a very capable coach. I think you have a very capable offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, just overall coaching staff that is going to put a lot of these players in positions to be successful. And that's something that Tampa Bay, that we're basically talking about my expectations for the upcoming season. And for those of you that are just joining, basically what I'm looking at here is 500. Being 500 is not acceptable. The Bucs have to be in the playoff hunt towards the back end of the season, and it can't be they can't be like getting mathematically eliminated 5 games before the season's over. So just kind of wait and see what happens. Hey, thank you. I appreciate that, Tampa. Jameis Winston, you know what? I like Jameis Winston. I always have liked Jameis Winston. I went to KU. I didn't go to Florida State. I don't have a dog in the race, but I do like Jameis Winston. And I really believe if Jameis Winston is put in the right situation, I believe that he can be a very good quarterback, and he can lead to some wins. And just how he's been the last few seasons with a limited running game and just not being able to come in and play his game. I've often questioned whether the head coach 100% bought into Jameis Winston being a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. And now we're going to see with a new coach that is 100% backing Jameis Winston, if we can, if that's somebody that we can lean on. We can't ask for more when it comes to this coaching staff. Great minds on offensive defense. Brandon Fuller, that's exactly what I'm saying. You're 100% right. The tables are being set for Jameis Winston to have a successful season. And I think, especially with the running game, when you saw and Tampa, hold that thought. I'm going to answer that question. I'm going to answer that question in just a moment, but I think that is a great question. What's the McCoy legacy in Tampa? I will definitely get to that question, but kind of getting back to what I was talking about with the coaching staff. You have a very capable coaching staff. You have a coaching staff that's playing defenses and offenses that are modern, that are up to date, that kind of fit in with the way the NFL is going. And I believe that, there are a lot of pieces in place that Tampa should have, they shouldn't have any problems. And case in point, when Tampa went out and got Shaq Barrett, I know that went under the radar for a lot of people. I'm really excited about having Shaq Barrett in Tampa. I think he's a very underrated player, and I expect big things from him this year. I expect him to be utilized. Now, big serious TM. We need JPP. You know what? I honestly do not know what this defense is going to look like. I mean, 100% what this defense is going to look like. So I'm going to have to, kind of go back to waiting and seeing what this defense does. I think we'll get a good opportunity to see that when you have the preseason, when the preseason kicks off. And, again, you've got a very competent coaching staff here. And I don't think you're going to see all the stupid experiments that you saw with the previous regime, playing players in positions that aren't their strengths, or, just overall not being flexible enough to make adjustments. And a good example of that would be Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick, you see Bill Belichick all the time makes adjustments to whatever's going on. So I'm really hoping that will be the case this year. I like a lot of the pieces that the Bucs have brought in. I thought they would do more on the defensive line, but I'm good with what they've done. I'm just going to, like I said, and this will be my theme throughout the year, I want to see what this team does with what they have. And I believe that, they've got a lot of quality pieces in place. And, I think Jason Light has done a good job. Now, I do want to touch on one thing, since we're talking about personnel, is a lot of people have really, been giving Jason Light a lot of grief because of the moves he's made. And I look at some, from his time starting with Tampa up until now, I know I've gotten a lot of heat because I haven't really gone in on Jason Light because a lot of the moves he's made. But, this offseason has really given me a great idea of, just where Jason Light is. I mean, when you look at losing a Quan Alexander, when you lose a Deshaun Jackson, when you lose a Adam Humphries, and then you lose a Gerald McCoy, these are players that were on a 5-win team, but people were willing, in the case of Quan Alexander, to overpay for a guy that has an injury and hasn't proven, what he can do after coming off of that injury. I think that this kind of shows you the talent that Jason Light has brought in, where other teams are willing to pay for these players to come to their team thinking this will help them out. Another good example is Adam Humphries. When you look at Adam Humphries, he was the number 4 wide receiver for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. When you look at Mike Evans, you look at Deshaun Jackson, you look at Chris Godwin, and then you had Adam Humphries, and they're willing to pay this guy like a number 2 receiver. So a lot of these players, other teams are willing to go out and get, thinking that these guys will come in and help their team. So I don't know. I'm still on the fence about Jason Light. I want to wait and see what he does throughout his tenure with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers before I can really, say, hey, this is, he was either good or he was trash, as people want to say. I want to get back to some of the questions because, again, you guys in the chat are making the show what it is. I guess my next question would be to Tampa Bay, who did ask, what's McCoy's legacy in Tampa? I talked a little bit about what Joe McCoy has done going to the Carolina Panthers. And I do think that it was a logical move for him to go to the Carolina Panthers as opposed to going to, say, the Cleveland Browns or the Baltimore Ravens. But I think Joe McCoy was a talent while he was here. He made plays. And when you look at his productivity throughout his time, he's always played at a high level. But there were times where we didn't see Joe McCoy in the fourth quarter, or we felt we didn't see Joe McCoy in the fourth quarter of games, or there were times where we felt like, hey, this guy should be in here making plays, and we're just not seeing it. And that's what I've heard, just in social media from people is that, he kind of fell off a little bit, but you got to consider he is 31. And, that's kind of what a lot of people are saying. But for me, I was happy with Gerald McCoy being in Tampa. I know that if Gerald McCoy at any point in any of the free agencies, Gerald McCoy would have been a high free agent pick for any of the 32 teams in the NFL had he been available and had teams have found a need and had the ability to pick him up. I can promise you that all 31 other teams would have tried to get Gerald McCoy at some point in time. And that includes the New England Patriots all the way down to the Rams. I think that he's a guy that can come in and still make plays. You won't see the 2015 Gerald McCoy on a consistent basis, but he's a guy that can still come in and get you plays. And what Pewtercast is saying, truth is we don't know this team anymore. We can't use previous years to tell us what we think we know about them. Yeah, and that kind of goes back to what I was saying. I don't know what this team's going to look like. I don't know what this defense is going to look like, but I still have high expectations because Jameis Winston's still the quarterback, and you've brought somebody in to replace a Gerald McCoy, and statistically they're close to each other. Again, I still have high expectations for this team because you have Jason Light, who's been building this team since 2015. So there should be a return. There shouldn't be an excuse that, they were at 500 this year. Let's wait till next year. That's not a good excuse. So that's kind of where I am with this team. Again, my expectations are pretty high, and I expect the Bucs to play well. And if everybody's buying in, that's what we'll have to see. And Amazement 717, the whole number thing shouldn't affect McCoy. He did the best he could. He wasn't transcendent enough to get pissed over 93. You know what? That whole 93 thing is a crazy argument. Joe McCoy's got 93 in Carolina. I'm sure he's not really worried about what Tampa's doing in Tampa, and Dominican Suh has worn 93 before as well. Again, it's not a big deal to me. I think that at the end of the day, Joe McCoy will eventually, at the end of his career, retire a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. I strongly believe that, and I'm not going to really trip about it too much. On D, we would look like the Jets on D when we should look like the Cards. You know what? XCLU Garvey, I'm going to wait and see. With you have somebody like a Levante David, you got players like Noah Spence, you got different players, and I know people are like down on Noah Spence, but I can say this: Noah Spence did not forget how to play football. I think those injuries that affected him, I think I'm having expectations for him to have a good season as well, playing in a defense where he can go and hunt the quarterback. So I'm just kind of taking a step back. Cali Buck, what's going on? I'm just taking a step back. I'm going to look and, just kind of watch the team, but I'm just kind of letting you guys know, kind of where my expectations are with everything. So, again, it's going to be, we're going to see what they do in camp. I'm going to try to get down to watch camp a few times just to see what they do. Eric Hardnett, do you think Jameis Winston last season with the Bucs or last ride, what do you think of Jameis Winston getting hurt? Should Jameis Winston get hurt? It's going to be all on Jameis Winston. I think that, like I said, I think they set the table for Jameis Winston to come out and have a good season. I believe with Byron Leftwich, I think he's a good offensive coordinator based on what he was able to do in with the Cardinals in the short time that he was there. And it was incredible to watch the players buy into his offense. And I really like what he was able to do. So I again, you've got some good coordinators in place, some very capable coordinators in place. And I really believe that they will, they'll get more out of this team than what we've been seeing. But back to the Jameis Winston question. Jameis Winston, again, this is going to be all up to him, what he does. I think when you've got the head coach's support, 100% support, I think you're going to see a lot more out of him. I think them being able to get more out of the running game and put him in a position to succeed. I think Jameis Winston's going to have a good season this year. And I want to see Jameis Winston have a 3-to-1 TD to INT ratio. We will win plenty if he puts up those numbers. And guys, and I don't know what you guys think about this. I'm going to ask this to the chat. Did you guys notice the missed tackles, the playing out of position on defense a lot of times, and just a poor execution on defense? And I know we can put a little bit of the blame on Mike Smith, but at the end of the day, players have to go out and tackle. If you got a player 5 yards behind the line, you have to make that tackle. You have to wrap them up. I saw so many missed tackles. I saw a lot of freelancing, and it just was an unbalanced defense. There was a real lack of communication a lot of the time, and it just looks like I'm hoping this is something that a lot of that gets fixed this year. Trade John Gruden. Let's see. Trade John Gruden won the ring when trade Bruce Arians going to Super Bowl this year. Ooh, I don't know. I've just not been a real, John Gruden. I didn't like the way John Gruden. Well, and this may be just me being petty. I didn't like the way John Gruden did Mike Allstott at all, and I never really got past that. And then what happened with John Lynch? I was just, and then watching the quarterbacks that John Gruden brought in, I just have never been a huge John Gruden fan after the Super Bowl, just seeing what he did with certain players that I felt like were capable of helping this team still win games. So when it comes to John Gruden, it'll be kind of hard for me because I'm kind of biased about John Gruden. And Amazement 717, these coaches will hold him accountable. I think you saw a glimpse of that with Vernon Hargreaves. And we saw Vernon Hargreaves came out and he responded quite positively to what he's being told. So, just when I look at this coaching staff, I'm good with the coaching staff. It's going to be up to fans to just kind of be patient and let's see what they do. And that's kind of where I'm at with all this, is just let's see what happens. As far as Ndamukong Suh, I like Ndamukong Suh. I like the move. I thought that he was a capable replacement for Gerald McCoy. He's a little bit more aggressive. You won't see him helping quarterbacks up off the ground. I think he brings a little bit more nastiness that I hope that you can see Vita Vea seeing that and playing with a little bit more nastiness as well. I love the move. So Bruce Arians will be fired. People don't play good, mean, and nasty. Bruce Arians will fire people that don't play good, mean, and nasty. We'll see. I believe that he's going to hold people accountable. That's the one thing that I can 100% confirm. Nobody's getting a day off, or you got to go out there and prove what you can do. And everything that I've heard and read from the camps, just like you guys have on social media, it looks like a lot of the players are really buying into this. So thumbs up to him. And we'll see what happens. My thing is the Bucs can play more consistently through the season and not have long slumps, like going. Yes, there you go. Amazement 717 is speaking my language. These middle games, this 6-game stretch is going to be huge. The Bucs are going to have to win some of these games. I'm not saying they're going to win all the games, but the Bucs have to go out and win games that they're not supposed to win. Games like the one in London. I think that's going to be a very important game. The one in London, some of these away games, all the away games, just coming in and having a winning record after those away games will be make a big impact on how this team looks towards the back end of the season. So these are the little things that I will be looking for personally. Is, hey, what are they doing? What are they going to be doing in the off season, or not in the middle of the season when these games count. Will they be able to pick up some of these wins? Because as you guys know, last season and the season before last, the Bucs came out kind of hot. Then they had a losing streak, win a game, another losing streak, and then they struggled the rest of the back end of the season. So this is going to be one of those things where mentality is going to be huge. Being able to go in and put this team in a position to win. So I'm looking forward to this season. I have high expectations, and I really want to see the Bucs do more than what they've been doing. With the schedule having a ton of home games back on the back end, it will be great to be home playing for something. That's the key right there. So if they can win some of these games, it's going to be pretty straight. The real McCoy is here. Yeah, that's true. We all know that. Yeah, that's a good point. But again, just hurricane season, could lose some games of bad weather. You know what? I hadn't even thought about that, but I'm not going to put that energy out in the air. We'll just kind of see what happens. But so you've got Ndamukong Suh and you've got Vita Vea. You've got players that will definitely be vying for that line as well. So we'll just kind of have to wait and see what happens. We're gonna win. We finally got coaches. Yeah, you guys. I don't know if you guys have been following the podcast for a little bit. I've been griping about the coaching staff for a while, and just the process that they've used to go through to bring coaches in. So, I like what they did. They went out and they interviewed a lot of different coaches. They made a lot of different, they pitched to a lot of different coaches. Hey, you can come here, but they ended up with Bruce Arians. I think they covered all their bases. They didn't just make a rush move to bring a coach in. And, I think they got the guy that can help with the quarterbacks, with the defense, and fix some of the deficiencies that the Bucs have been seeing all these years. And let me go back through the chat here. The defense will play fast and fly to the football. Amazement 717. I'm really interested to see how these schemes are going to look, where they're using a lot of linebackers. And, with all the new cornerbacks that the Bucs have, it's going to be really interesting to see how that all plays out as well. Because if you remember last year, the secondary was a real deficiency with Chris Conte and players like Brent Grimes, who, probably shouldn't have been re-signed, but they did it anyway. So getting some of these younger players and some of these draft picks in here, it should be really interesting to see what they do. Here we go. Can't wait to see Devin White next to David. That should be great. That's going to be really interesting to see how he fits in. Win your home games and split your away games. That's a 12-win season. There you go. Pewtercast just pretty much sums it up. Your thoughts on Sapp maybe being there, and how do you think he will relate with Suh? Amazement 717. Suh is a veteran. I mean, when you consider he's been in the league as long as he has, I think that this guy's pretty much determined how his path is going to go. I don't really see Sapp being an impact one way or the other with an Ndamukong Suh because of what he's been able to do. I mean, just consider he played in the Super Bowl last year. So, I mean, that says a lot about him. Mr. Bucs Nation, what's going on? Glad to see you. But getting back to Eric talking about Devin White playing next to Levante David, I really like that idea. Just, getting to go back and look at some of the film on Devin White and how well he covers. I remember that coverage used to be somewhat of an issue with the linebacker core. And I think that they've really addressed that problem with this draft pick. But again, he's got to go out there. On paper, it looks good, but he's got to go out there and prove what he can do. Big Serious STM. What will Rojo's impact be this year? I'm cautiously optimistic about Rojo. I've been hearing only positive things about him. And again, my question has been, since the previous staff has been let go, do you equate a lot of the problems that the Bucs had to coaching, or do you equate it to talent? So we'll just kind of have to wait and see what happens. Again, and I've addressed this, I've said this before, I'll keep saying this. I don't know what this offense or defense is going to look like. I'm really curious to see what they're going to do. But, just based on everybody buying in, everybody starting to adjust to the new scheme on both sides, I'm really happy. And I think that bodes well for this team. Do you think Arians will stay our coach if we have a bad season and go 5-11? I don't know. That's a good question. That's something I've never really thought about. When I look at Bruce Arians, I think that he would. I think that he's going to put this team in a position to succeed. I'm going to go on record saying, yeah, I think that he would be back next year as the coach. So you have me on video. You can rewind this or, find a GIF or whatever. I'm going to go out and say, yeah, I could see him as the head coach in 2020 if he does have a bad season. Josh Kyle, I honestly think this will be a huge year for Jameis. For the first time, he has a coach that believes in him. I talked about that a little bit earlier, and that's something that I definitely believe in as well. I think that will be huge. Cali Buck, we look like the 2015 Arizona Cardinals. Ooh, trying to think. I don't know. It should be interesting to see. I remember the Cardinals and what they did. Their running game was filthy they had back then. And it should be really, you've got a Hall of Fame wide receiver. And, I could see the comparisons, I guess, now that you mention it. And Mr. Bucks Nation, I think the only reason Arians wouldn't be our head coach next year if we do bad is if he wants to retire again. Yeah, again, I think there are so many pieces in place, and I said this earlier, I think there are so many pieces in place with Tampa, talented pieces, that it drew him out of retirement. I don't think you would have seen Bruce Arians go to a team to rebuild a team. I really don't. I think there are enough pieces, and he's comfortable with the general manager and the and the ownership. I think that he put himself in a good position. He felt like this was a team that he could reload and not have to rebuild. So again, this is one of those teams. Hey guys, if you're following me for the first time, if you could just smash that like button, let me know, and subscribe if you aren't subscribed already. The content will start being a little bit more regular. One of the people who's in the chat, actually, Mr. Bucks Nation, I am going to get him on. I'm going to get him on the show here probably within the next couple of weeks, and kind of get his thoughts on the season. I will have Tom Bassinger, the Tampa Bay Times, on, who will be talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with me on Wednesday, and Michael Pless from Real Bucks Talk. And again, I want to give a shout out to Bucks Report. As this show, you can find this podcast on Bucks Report. There will be a link to get to it, and I will be dropping this out onto iTunes as well. So a lot of opportunities to check this out as we go along. But guys, keep sending those questions to me, and I will get to them and answer them, as you guys are the wheel that makes the show run. You guys are the real captains of the ship. Just getting your questions out here, and I appreciate y'all. Let's see, Jameis Winston. So, is everybody pretty comfortable with Jameis Winston being the the starting quarterback? Would you have liked to have seen the Bucs go after another quarterback, or you want to kind of wait and see what he does? So you heard could trade for Patrick Peterson. Eric Hardnett, let me ask you this: who would you give up for a Patrick Peterson? What player would you be willing to part with for a Patrick Peterson? Wait, next year. Yeah, let me know your thoughts on that. Let's see. Trying to think. Am I missing anything? So we touched on the Bucs. We touched on Gerald McCoy and Gerald McCoy being in Carolina. And, again, guys, no, let Winston play with no distractions, no looking over his shoulder. You know what? That's cool. Eric Hardnett, JPP in a second-round pick for Patrick Peterson. And probably 86. I want to see what he does, but definitely his last shot. I hope they have some plan to move on from him just in case he doesn't play out. You know what? I'm good with that. I'm good with that because at the end of the day, it's not the player. It's about getting somebody in here who's going to help win some games. And you want some longevity on that. You want a quarterback that's going to keep you in the hunt. You want a quarterback. I mean, you look at the I don't know. You look at the luxury that the New Orleans Saints have had. The New Orleans Saints have been bad on defense. However, they've got a Drew Brees who can come in every year and he puts you in the hunt, immediately puts you in the hunt. And that's gold, man. I mean, you can't compete with that. I mean, that's something that you want in your quarterback is a guy that can do that kind of thing for you. So I don't know. I'm good with that. If Jameis Winston doesn't work out, you definitely want to move on. Lane Johnston, rarely even. What's going on, fellas? We're just talking a little bit about expectations for the Bucs. Some of the new players that the Bucs have, for example, Shaq Barrett, Ndamukong Suh, and we're just kind of talking right now. The subject right now is Jameis Winston. If Jameis Winston has a bad season, do you move on from him? Did that arrangement with Princess Nikki? I'm going to get her on. Yeah, it was just bad timing, but I will get her on. What are your thoughts on the immediate impact on defense with Todd Bowles and players changes in mind? Max. I'm good with Todd Bowles. I'm comfortable with what he's capable of doing. I think when you look at this team across the board, you've got a lot of talent out there, and I think they'll be just fine. I think he'll be able to dial up plays and get pressure on the quarterback. When you were looking at a Mike Smith, I mean, you're looking at polar opposites. You're looking at a Todd Bowles who's up to date with what the NFL is doing and how to compete against some of the offenses. And I just don't believe he had quite the tools in New York to really make all that happen. I think he's got a little bit more talent here in Tampa as opposed to what he had in New York. And I think that he'll be a little bit better off. I mean, you look at what he did with with Arizona Cardinals, and I'm good with him. So as far as Todd Bowles goes, I'm fine with him, and let's just kind of sit back and see what he does. Cali Buck and Winston, I trust. Again, I don't have a problem with Jameis Winston. If Jameis Winston goes out, does what he's supposed to do, he's got a coach that backs him up. I mean, basically the table's set for him to have a successful season. I mean, nobody can argue that. I mean, you've got Mike Evans, you've got Chris Godwin. They brought in some other wide receivers. He's got quite a few weapons. OJ Howard, and at this point right now, because he hasn't been moved, Cameron Brate. I mean, he's got a lot of weapons to go to, and we're not even talking about what possibly Peyton Barber could do, as opposed to giving somebody like a Rojo another opportunity to go out there and show what he can do. Having a season under his belt and coming into a different scheme, I think should really help him out as well. let's see. I really feel good about a third round pick, Mike Edwards. Yes. That's another guy that I'm really excited to see. I will definitely be monitoring camp to see what happens with that and see what he does. Perryman, if Perryman, I like Perryman if he can stay healthy. I think that he will definitely be of benefit. I would love to see him being healthy in the middle of the season, the kind of games where, in the middle of the season, game five to, I would say, game 10 or 11, those games that are a grind where you have to grind out some of the wins and sometimes you're behind and you really have to go out there and do stuff. Those are the games where I would love to see this guy show up. Here's somebody that we've kind of forgot about in Perryman, and let's see what he can do. Oh yeah, Scotty, I saw the bomb that he caught, and the guy's got some wheels. So, again, let's hope that this works out for him. Yeah, Callie Buck says when Winston has a running game, he's at his best. Absolutely. And guys, these coaches have watched 10 times more game film than we have. I'm looking forward to it. I want to see what they can dial up to put this team in a great position to succeed. That's going to be huge for this team as well. Let's see. Scotty's turning heads too. The coaching staff is awfully excited about Ronald Jones. You know what? And I mentioned this rarely even before you guys came on. I'm cautiously optimistic, and I really hope that Ronald Jones has a bounce back game, because that's just been the underlying question for a lot of fans. Was the coaching that bad, or was it player personnel, or what was going on to this team last year to be a 5-win team? So if you get more productivity out of some of these players that you didn't last year, it's going to be really interesting to see how this all works out. Scotty Miller, he's fast. He's really, really fast. He's so fast. He makes fast people look not so fast. Yeah, I another guy that we're kind of waiting to see. So guys, anybody in the chat, who are you looking forward to watching, whether it's a free agent or a draft pick? Who are you looking to watch in the offseason? Who's somebody that you have your eye on? Let me get some names from you. I'm going to tell you my guy, and I know I mentioned his name already, is Shaq Barrett. I want to see what he can do, and I believe that he'll be a big factor on this defense. And again, he's a guy that you haven't heard a lot of people mention his name, but I think that he will definitely be a big part of this team. So he's one of those guys that I'm looking forward to seeing. He brings up the kicker. Amazement 717. I've got my eye on the secondary as a whole. Want to see what Nelson can do. That should be pretty. Yeah, Nelson. Yeah, we'll see what he does. Let's see. I'm going to drop some names out here. What about Anthony Auclair? What are your thoughts on Anthony Auclair? Does he make this team? It's one of those guys that I'm kind of putting out there. What about Sean Murphy Bunting? What do you guys think about him? Is he a guy that can do some things? I feel like Sean Murphy Bunting is a ball hawk. What about Alex Kappa? Here's another guy. Max Vasher talking about Ndamukong Suh. What about Jack Sitchie? Here's another guy who was injured. Is he a guy that can come in and you think that he will find a spot on this team? Another guy to think about, Carlton Davis. Does Carlton Davis even make the team? There are just so many different players that, the Bucks have. Noah Spence. Here's another guy. I'm so rooting for Noah Spence. I want him to have that bounce back season. I want him to be able to come back and make some plays and do some things. So there you go. There's another guy that I have on my list of possible players that can really do something. Let's see. What about William Golston? I know that a lot of people have been really down on this guy. Will he find a place on this team? Hargraves. I think Vernon Hargraves will make the team. I really do believe that he hasn't been used properly. But again, it's going to be up to him to go out and play and show that he deserves to be on this team. So Vernon Hargraves is another guy. Great comment there on that. If Devin White reaches his highest potential, he'll not only dominate the game, he's going to change it. Rarely even. I'm going to ask you a question because I like what I've seen from Devin White, but what makes you say that he could potentially change the game? Amazement 717. If Justin Evans can stay healthy, I don't see Justin Evans not making his team. The guy can play. He can ball. He just can't stay healthy. And I think that's the hardest part is, when you're not out on the field helping this team win and you're on the sidelines, it's not doing anybody any good. So I like Justin Evans. And Mentor, what do you guys think about Mentor? Does Mentor is he one of those guys that makes a team as well? There are so many players. Kevin Mentor is one of those guys. I loved his game last year, and I always felt like, man, the Bucs need to re-sign this guy. I think he's going to be a big piece. So a lot of guys out here. Nassib, yeah, Carl Nassib, he's a plus. What's concerning about Nassib is, can the Bucs re-sign him in 2020? If he balls out, if he does anything remotely close to what he did last year, he's going to be in for a huge payday. And it's just what it is. It's just one of those things, that's just how he's going to do it. So one of those guys that you just kind of got to watch for to see what he does. As far as JPP, this is my perspective on JPP. And I'm trying to remember which podcast. Was it Pewtercast? It was either Pewtercast or Locked on Bucs. Pewtercast or Locked on Bucs. I'm gonna give a shout out to both of them. Great podcasts. If you're not checking them out. One of them said the best way to go in, the best way to approach JPP is to pretend like he's out for the season. And when he comes back, it's an added bonus. And that's kind of how I'm looking at it, is that here's a guy that I know with his injury, we know what his decision was, not to have surgery and try to come back. But you know what? You've got a lot of capable players. I know that you've given up. You've lost like 12 and a half sacks without having JPP. But still, you've got a lot of players. You've got a different defensive scheme. So not sure what they're going to do, as far as that goes. I just saw it. Did we lose your comment? Rarely even just posted a comment and went away. I'll get it in a minute. Justin Watson. I like Justin Watson. Justin Watson's going to be competition for that wide receiver. Justin Watson. I'm sorry, wide receiver. Goodness. Justin Watson will. I'm thinking he will be back. I don't know what I'm thinking about here. Yeah, Justin Watson. Justin Watson. I'm looking at his stats. Hold on one second. I'm trying to pull up his stats right now. Yeah, he didn't get a lot of play last year, but I think that we shall see. Okay, so rarely even. Here, okay, here's the comment. And Eric Harden, I'll get back to yours in just a second. We've never seen an athlete like him at his position, Gene. Once in a generation athleticism. If he can polish his game, he'll be a once in a generation talent. So because that's a statement. That's a huge statement. I don't hear that a whole lot about players in positions like this. Because you see some really talented players out there. What do you see in him that makes you? His ceiling is Patrick Willis. Wow. Yeah, that's saying a lot right there. So his floor is Zach Brown and ceiling Patrick Willis. That's saying something. DeTwan Davis, what's going on? How you doing? Brand new to the scene. Go Bucks. Thank you for jumping in here in the chat. And I want to get your expectations for the Bucks, DeTwan. What do you think they're going to do this year? Yeah, I can see that because White has a skill set that you don't see in linebackers with the speed and the ability to cover. That's huge. And I don't know if you guys will agree with me or not on this, but we saw at times where Quan Alexander was a liability in coverage. And, just there were times where there were plays that should have been made that weren't made. And I think, when you talk about in the coverage aspect, I think, at this point right now on paper, that White is an upgrade over Quan Alexander as far as coverage goes. He's only been playing middle linebacker for 3 years. He was that dominant despite being that raw. That's crazy. And Levante David will help him fine tune his game. You know what? There you go. You've sold me. I didn't realize he's only been playing for 3 years. Just looking at his film, you would have thought he'd been playing a little bit longer. So, wow, that's saying a lot. DeTwan Davis, we're going to show out. Love the culture change and a fan out of Las Vegas. There we go. Next time I'm in Las Vegas, I'm going to hit you up and we'll have to hang out. I can't wait to see the Raiders. And DeTwan, will you be going to the draft next year? Will be in Las Vegas. I think this should be a really interesting draft, being in a place where the Oakland Raiders are headed. Eric Hartnett, Beckwith make the roster. I don't know how serious his injury is. I really don't. I haven't heard anything. Kendall Beckwith is another player that, unfortunately, I have to kind of treat like JPP because I don't know where he's at. I don't know where he's at on his recovery. So you kind of have to look at the players that are available on this team and then kind of go from there and say, hey, okay, this is where we are. So just kind of have to wait and see what happens with him before we get an idea of what's going to happen. Who do you see being a leader on this defense? If White is everything that I've read about him and everything that other players, former players have said about him, I could see White being the leader of this defense very quickly. I'm just trying to think. Everybody else just kind of goes out there and plays, and Ndamukong Suh is definitely not that alpha dog leader of a defense that you just get behind him and he's going to lead you into that. It has to be your middle linebacker or even Levante David. Levante David just quietly goes out there and plays. I just don't see him being that thing either, being that guy. The one guy that stands out to me, just based on what I've seen, again, is White. And rarely even. Not saying it's a sure thing, not at all. A lot of things have to go right for it to happen. I'm just saying that if he can reach his highest ceiling, he'll be truly great. You know what? I get what you're saying, and I like what you're saying because you're bringing something to light that we haven't really talked about I haven't talked about on the show. And guys, if you know me, if you've been listening to the show for any period of time, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And I wasn't thrilled about the move to bring him in, but I like what they've done. I like what he's done. I like what he's capable of doing. If he's an upgrade at middle linebacker because you need a quarterback for your defense, he's that guy. And if he's that guy, then they hit it out of the park with that first round pick. So the pick's been made. I'm not going to trip about who I thought the pick should be. I don't even care anymore. He's our guy. He's a Tampa Bay Buccaneer, and I'm 100% behind him. So that's where I'm at with all this. So, this is the guy. This is our starting. He could potentially be the quarterback of the defense. and I'm good with that. Should the Bucs have added a veteran cornerback? I'm going to say no. I am, Amazement 717. I'm going to say no. If you're talented enough to play at your position, then you're good. I think when you look at the front part of the defense, the defensive line, when you look at the linebackers that are in place, when you look at the people that are coming back healthy, I think if you're getting pressure, when you're getting pressure on the quarterback, I think that helps the secondary a whole lot to where they don't have to do as much work. They don't have to cover as long. And I think it benefits everybody as long as that front line can work and play like they're supposed to. So, just looking at this team, looking at the players available, I think it's a good move. I don't believe Chris Conte's on this team. Oh, let me verify that, but I don't think he's on this team. No, I don't. I think he's long gone, I believe, because you really couldn't. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's gone. But no, he's just one of those guys that, yeah, I'm trying to think when they released him, or when he just kind of, yeah, he's not on the team. Yeah, Chris Conte's gone, so you're not going to have to see him or whatever. Yeah, the flaws in his game need to be fixed. He needs to learn how to wrap, launches himself at guys at times. He also needs to work off fighting blocks. Rarely even. I'm gonna tell you this right here. Everything that you said just now, I was saying that about Kendall Beckwith when the Bucs drafted him, and I was mad that the Bucs drafted him because, again, I wanted a defensive lineman. However, I will say this. Everything that you've mentioned there is coachable. And I think with what the Bucs have, as far as a coaching staff, you've got a bunch of teachers on this team. You don't have a bunch of guys saying, "Oh, you go out and do this," and they don't give any explanations. I think you've got a bunch of teachers that are going to put this team and each of these players in a position to succeed. The Bucs want the best 53 on the field. I mean, it's important to win now. And I really believe that, when you got somebody like this, I understand he's raw, but I honestly believe that he'll catch up to it. And let's see. I told you I agree. The secondary will be versatile and be able to handle any type of wide receivers we face this season. You know what? Even the big ones. I like the idea that, you could see up to 6, 7. you could see a bunch of different. Hey, Ken F., what's going on? You can see a lot of different cornerbacks on the field at any given time. So this season, like I said, I've taken the approach that I'm not going to say, oh, this team is going to win 10 games. This team needs to be competing for the playoffs just based on the level of talent that they have. The fans deserve it. Season ticket holders. I mean, a lot of people that have been loyal to this team and just sat by and year after year watch this team try to progress. There needs to be a return on that at some point. And that's what I'm expecting to see, is a return on that for the fans, because the fans deserve this. Ken F., what's going on, my friend? Matthew Kitchell, what's going on? We got a bunch of free agents on D. We had a bunch on O in 2002. I like the players that the Bucs have gone out and got. I think it was very important to get players that will give you a return on what you've invested in them. And I think that's going to be very important too. You've got a lot of players that are playing 1-year prove-it deals, so they have to go out and really play to their best ability. And it's going to be something to watch, to be honest, to see how this all turns out. So again, one of those things that I'm looking forward to it. I haven't gone out, and you guys will notice that I'm on Twitter. I haven't gotten involved in a lot of hot takes this year. I haven't gotten involved in debates about Gerald McCoy going to Carolina or Gerald McCoy staying and Ndamukong Suh getting 93 and should have been Gerald McCoy. I don't care. It's about wins and losses. It's about the Bucs going to the playoffs. It's about Jameis Winston having a good season. It's about the defense not being a liability. It's about the coaching staff putting players in the best position to win. I don't care who's on the field, because we care about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That Buccaneers flag, this is our team. Players come and go. And fans, if you're going to get a jersey with your name on it. As much as fans have been through, fans need to stop buying jerseys with players' names on them and get their own names on it, because fans are the MVPs. Fans are. You come and listen to my show and listen to me ramble on for an hour, and you love this team. I mean, you go to a game and you expect this team to do something. You deserve that. I mean, you've worked hard for that. It's been a decade since this team has been it's been over a decade since they went to the playoffs. So something needs to happen. It needs to get better for fans. And that's what it's all about. Matthew Kitchell, McCoy is gone. If he's to take a pay cut, we need to move on. You know what? That's kind of where I'm at. And I'm like, okay, let's focus on who's on this team. Buck the World 2.0. What's going on? Bucks for life. You know that I'm right there with you. Guys, you've got a good team here. You got a good coach. Let's see what they can put together. If that's not the case, it is what it is. We move on from there. P. Cody, what's happening? What's good, Gene? I hope everything is everything. I'm ready for the season. And again, you guys deserve better. And exactly, focus on the future, wins and losses. Don't get caught up in these arguments about who's got this player, who's got this player. Who cares? Let's focus on who's on this team that's going to help this team win games. Great point on the jersey, Gene. Players come and go, but us fans will always be Bucks. Again, I would stop buying jerseys with players' names on them unless they're in the Hall of Fame. Get your name on it. You're spending money for this jersey. Get your name on it. Get your son's name on it, your daughter's name, your wife's name. Get somebody's name on it. If you're going to wear a jersey, make it somebody that hey, they are not leaving this team. Because fans are forever. Players come and go. That's what it should be about. And at the end of the day, I try to preach that to people. I know then you kind of get into that argument about, hey, you're too old to be wearing jerseys. No, if you're supporting this team, support this team the way you want to support this team. And to be honest, new player comes in. I know it's the hot new player or whatever, but just remember, you're always going to be that fan. You're always going to be going to the game. You're always going to be supporting this team, regardless of when their contract is up. You know who's going to be supporting this team? You are. So stop buying. Not saying don't buy the jerseys, but if you're going to get somebody's name on the back of that jersey, make it yours because you've earned it. You're rooting for a team that hasn't been to the playoffs in over a decade. That says everything about you and your integrity and your support of this team. So that's how you have to look at this. Yes, and you know what? I did watch the video of Ndamukong and Suh mic'd up, and I'm going to tell you this. A lot of the nasty rumors about this guy are not true. This guy is a teacher. If people want to learn from this guy, if other players want to learn from him, he'll teach you. But he's just not that alpha dog leader that's going to, hey, he's not Warren Sapp, okay? And he's never claimed to be Warren Sapp. He's not Derek Brooks. He's Ndamukong and Suh, and that's what you have to accept him as, Ndamukong and Suh. And let's see, the Twan Davis. I'm investing on seeing our team win statement games. I support them even if they win or lose. This is our year. You know what? We all do. We all support this team, and I don't want to take anything away from anybody or tell anybody how to spend their money or anything like that. All I'm saying is, if you're going to get a jersey and you don't want to be let down, put your name on the back of it, because you know what? You're not getting traded. You're not re-signing a contract with another team. You're not going to sign with a division rival. You're a Tampa Bay Buccaneer fan. So that's a return on your investment, because you're not going anywhere. And Suh is sharp as attack, very smart. dirty player stuff is overblown. Again, you look at his penalties, personal foul penalties or whatever. He's a guy, he just, that's how he plays. If you go back and look at my videos, I've never had anything like, oh, he's a dirty player, he's doing this. I'm like, hey, that's just how he plays the game. That's just how Ndamukong Suh plays the game. And I've left it at that. At the end of the day, I've just left it at that. Because, when you think about it, hey, he could end up being a Tampa Bay Buc, and now here he is. So, again, at the end of the day, that's what you kind of have to rethink. And I'm not telling anybody how to be a fan. I'm not telling anybody about your fandom. That's personal. I've never criticized anybody. There are people that listen to the show, hate Jason Light, want him gone. There are people that hated Dirk Cutter. There are people that hated Mike Smith. There are people that hated Gerald McCoy. There are people that hated Greg Schiano. But you know what? Never question their fandom, not one bit, because it's all about wins and losses. And wins cover a multitude of sins. You go out there and you're winning. Everything looks good. You forget about all the little inconsistencies that you see. However, when you're losing, everything comes to light. Everything is a problem. So again, I'm just saying, if it were me and I'm going to invest a little bit of money in a jersey, I'm getting a jersey I could wear till the day I die. They could bury me in a jersey that says Thomas on the back of it. You know why? Because I'm a fan, and you're a fan till you stop being a fan. So again, if you're going to, Jeremy St. John, what's going on? If you're going to get a jersey, yeah, and Donkey Kong Sue, yeah, that was me. Yeah, yeah. So, again, he's just that guy. That's who he is. But I always thought that was kind of funny. But, I stand by it. I said it. But again, again, that's just how he plays. It's how he plays the game. I think the fact that who was it? Was it Aaron Rodgers he stepped on? I forgot who he stepped on. But it was a quarterback I didn't really care about, so it didn't really okay. He stepped on him. But anyway, that's here. We're here. We're fans. We're all fans. Guys, let's get excited for this season. I'm starting to get more excited as we get closer and closer to the season. Again, I can't apologize to all the listeners enough. I'm sorry I haven't been on as much, but I'm not an insider, number one. I don't really know what this team's going to look like. I can't come on and be like, oh, well, I think this team is going to do this and this and this. Oh, yeah, it was Evan Smith. I knew it was somebody like that. Thank you, Rarely. I don't know what this team's going to look. I couldn't legitimately come on and try to BS you guys and be like, oh, okay, I know what this team's going to do. I know this. I've heard this. We've all read the same stuff. We've all seen the same stuff. I just come on and give you my thoughts on it. This is my perspective on where this team is going to be. And guys, why not the Buccaneers? Your expectation should be the Bucs should be competing for a playoff spot at the end of the year. That's where your expectations should be every single year. Not 500. No, because you're a fan, you're selling yourself short. You guys, we should all be on the same page, whether it's Bucs Report, whether it's All Things Bucs, whether it's Pewtercast, Pewter Report, Greg Allman, Jenna Lane. We want the Bucs to win. That's our team. This is our fan base. And this is how we should be viewing it. It should be about wins and losses and not who's on the team. Gene, do you think the plan for the O-line, will Alex replace the guy at right guard? Listen, I'm so excited to have a different head coach on here than Andy Warthog that I'm good with what they've done and all these different experiments that they've been doing over the past couple of seasons. I think they've been stupid. And again, they're experiments. There's nothing set in stone. And you're risking your quarterback, and this is kind of how I just look as a Monday morning quarterback. Looking back on it, you're kind of risking your quarterback when you're experimenting with a player that's not strong in this position, but you're putting him there anyway. I believe that you have a very capable offensive line coach. I think you have a very capable head coach, and I really believe that the offensive line will be fine. I think that they will fix the deficiencies, and it's just one of those things that I think they would have addressed it if there was a glaring need. And I believe that they've got the players in place that they can do something with it. So again, it's going to be fun to watch. I'll be on moving forward every Wednesday at 10 p.m. If I get a wild hair, I may come on a Sunday or a Saturday on the weekend just to chop it up with you guys, because, hey, you guys are great. I mean, I love the content here. Just kind of roll call. Matthew Kitchell, Rarely Even, Amazement 717, Ken F, Eric Hardnett, Rarely, I mentioned Rarely Even, DeTwan Davis, Jeremy St. John's, P. Cody, Max Vasher, and I got Amazement. Again, you guys have been awesome getting in here, giving me your thoughts. And this makes for great content. And again, if I mention your name, if I forgot to mention your name, please hit me up, before the show is over, and I'll definitely drop your name. Eric Hardnett, we've had good times and sad times. Remember 1976? It didn't win till the season 3, and it's just been that way. And Buck the World, thank you. Go Bucks. Buck the World, long time follower, and I appreciate you for that. Again, this is one of those things that, we got to all come together as a fan base. I understand that people have differences of opinion, but now we're getting closer to the season. This is where we all need to come together and say, you know what? We've got to all come together. We're all fans. Yeah. That is something I am actually working on for the regular season, is to be able to have you guys call in live. And I'm going to be testing that here within the next couple of weeks, getting a new mixer board and everything in here, so I can get you guys on here. So you guys don't have to type and use your fingers. You can call in and say, hey, these are my thoughts on this. And just look for that in the next 2-3 weeks. It should be a lot of fun, because, the chat to me is probably the most important part of my show, is being able to interact with you guys. And, just kind of going back a little bit in history, I started doing this because I would try to talk to people and they would just ignore me. I don't want to hear what you got to say. I don't care what you got to say. And, goodness, what does this go back to? 2011, 2010? Yeah. Somewhere off in there, 2010, 2011. And, just people were, would ignore what I had to say. And I'm like, well, if they're ignoring me, I know they're ignoring a lot of other people. And since I've been doing this and, going back to Spreecast, and then I switched over to YouTube, the chat, you guys have always been awesome in the chat. And that I try to shout all you guys out, because you guys deserve it. I mean, you are part of the show. So thank you for that. Rarely Even, Ali Marpet will kill McCoy when we face Carolina. Whenever they went head to head in camp, Ali manhandled him. You know what? You're not the first person that said that. I have heard somebody else tell me that. I've only been to 2 camps. I've only been to 3 camps to actually watch Joe McCoy, and I don't know. I guess, how do I want to say this? I don't want to sound hypocritical, but I overlooked a lot of stuff that Joe McCoy did because I expected him to bring it on in the regular season. So there was a lot of things that I saw. I'm like, oh, okay, that's just Joe McCoy being Joe McCoy. And I left it alone. And again, Joe McCoy is a talent. Joe McCoy did a lot of good things for Tampa. And, I'm happy with his time here. So, guys, I know a lot of people don't like the move that was made. I don't think Joe McCoy was the right fit for Bruce Arians. And I think that had a little bit to do with it. And he is where he is. So, it is what it is, man. Guy, that is a great idea. I tell you what, when I when I lock in the home game that I'll be at, I'm going to let everybody know. And we're going to meet over at the press box because, that's my spot. Press box has always been my spot because the wings are bomb as hell. But I just want to, kind of get everybody together and we can hang out. And I'll bring in some T-shirts and, we'll have a good time. So, as we get closer to the season, I'll let you know. We don't have to wait long since they play the Panthers in a short week too. Again, guys, this is the one thing I'm going to say about Gerald McCoy. And, I don't know, because I know that different fan bases listen to the show, not just Bucs fans. But I am going to say this. If Gerald McCoy gets up against the Bucs and he plays a solid 4 quarters of football, you're going to definitely want to make sure to tune in to the show, the following show after that game. Be sure to tune in because I'm going to have a lot to say about that because Joe McCoy makes plays. He makes splash plays, but it isn't consistent over the span of a game. And I would love to debate somebody on that tries to argue that point with me, but he makes plays. He makes splash plays. He makes plays you may see on ESPN, but it's not for 4 quarters, and it hasn't been for, I don't know, some years. But I will have a problem with that if getting up to play against a team and it's the only time you can do that is against a your former team. I'm going to have a real problem with that because it's not what we saw from him, So I don't know. Again, Joe McCoy is Joe McCoy. And I think Joe McCoy got caught up in the whole Warren Sapp thing. And I think that's what soured a lot of fans towards him is because of him mentioning Warren Sapp in the same sentence with him. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. I guess. So I don't know. If guys remember, played the 49ers, the season started and made the playoffs. Yeah, absolutely. Eric, you're absolutely right. So, anything's possible. I just expect to see more from the Bucs this year than what we saw. I want to see Suh get a sack on Cam and do the airplane thing that you know what? I think if I'm mistaken, I don't think Suh really celebrates too much when he gets a sack. I don't know. I had to go back and watch him again, but I think that he's going to be an integral part in this defense. I think that Vita Vea watching him go in and light somebody up, being nasty, moving offensive linemen around. If Vita Vea is healthy for this whole season, he's going to be a problem for a lot of offensive linemen. He's going to be a problem. This guy is a physical freak. I saw him just watching him move offensive linemen around last year when he was healthy. I was just in awe just watching him run down running backs. I was just in awe of watching this guy. I can't wait to see what he can do. Joe McCoy joined a 3-4 defense. He joined a bad fit out of spite. I don't know that I would say it's a bad fit when you consider it's KK Short and goodness, I can't think of the other defensive tackle that's there. It'll come to me in just a minute because I mentioned him earlier in the show. I think it more benefited him because the whole workload is not going to be on Joe McCoy, and this may be one of those situations where they rotate him in and out. So again, Joe McCoy, I wish him luck. Again, he was a Dontari Poe. There we go. Dontari Poe. So you got Dontari Poe, Joe McCoy, and you got KK Short. So they've got a nice little rotation there. And I'm talking football only. They've got a nice little rotation. I think that played a big factor into Joe McCoy coming to Carolina, in my opinion. That's less of a workload for him. And it may make things easier for him to get plays. It may set him up for another 2-year deal. Who knows if he has a decent season with Carolina. So a lot of different moving parts. I just think that, it is what it is. He wasn't a good fit in Tampa. And it looks like, where he's at right now should work out for him because, he's there. But anyway, folks, I'm going to jump on off of here. I know this is Special Sunday, but if you're looking for it, you can find this on Bucs Report. Goodness. Sorry, guys. You can find this on Bucs Report. I'll be on again on Wednesday, again with my co-host, Michael Pless. We'll have Tom Bassinger on, and we're going to talk some football, talk a little bit of football analytics. That's my $2,000 word for the day, analytics. But I really enjoyed you guys tonight. I mean, this was a lot of fun, and I hope you guys can bring this same energy on Wednesday. Bring your questions. If you're not following me on Twitter, hit me up on Twitter at Buc What You Heard. If you're not following the podcast on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, and I promise I will be more consistent moving forward as we are getting closer and closer to the season. I'm going to have some really cool guests on, and I'm really working towards having you guys get your actual voices heard on the show. So hang in there with me. We're trying to expand this a little bit, and we definitely will make it better. And again, thank you so much for being on. And I appreciate all of you. And that's pretty much it for me for tonight. Thank you.